The Iranians hit back. Why this might be the best news possible. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, I'm on CNN. I'm on Fox News. CNN has it as Iran attacks Iraqi bases housing American troops. Fox News has it as, look at this, Iran hits back. Rogue nations fires over a dozen ballistic missiles at U.S. coalition forces in Iraq, Pentagon says. It's hilarious. Iran is a rogue nation. Okay. All right. So the Pentagon says Iran launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles at two Iraqi military bases where U.S. troops are stationed. Apparently, Mr. Trump is supposed to be making an address tonight. We'll be looking out for that. I hope it's Mr. Trump announcing that we're getting out of Iraq, considering that's what the Iraqi parliament voted for. They voted to get us out of Iraq. So, inshallah, we'll listen. So here it is. Iran fired more than a dozen ballistic missiles into Iraq, targeting U.S. military and coalition forces early Wednesday. The missiles targeted military bases in Al-Assad and Erbil, the Pentagon added. There was no immediate word on injuries or damage. White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham said after the attack, "We are aware of the reports of attacks on U.S. facilities in Iraq. The president has been briefed and is monitoring the situation closely and consulting with his national security team. It was not immediately clear how the U.S. may respond." Now, I am hoping that there were no KIA. I suspect that there will be no killed in action or even wounded in action. Now, why did I say this is good news? Ladies and gentlemen, we have approximately 5,000 to 8,000 soldiers on the ground in Iraq. In Iraq, there is an Iranian-backed Shia militia that numbers up to 100,000. Do you really believe if the Iranians seriously wanted to hurt us, that all they would do is launch about, a dozen ballistic missiles at two sites? They could literally, if they wanted to, clear out the entire U.S. presence there with the combination of Iran's Air Force and the 100,000 Shia militants there. As far as the Iraqis standing and fighting, the Sunni Iraqis standing side by side and fighting with us, there is nothing in the track record of Iraqi soldiers that says that they are going to stand and fight in the face of overwhelming odds. We've seen that in Desert Storm, how quick they were to retreat and surrender. Whole battalions were surrendering before a shot was even fired. We saw it in the second invasion of Iraq. We even saw it in the ISIS incursion, where you had 20-year-old kids rounding up guys in their 30s and just blitzing them all and killing them all. So my point is, you got 100,000 Shia militia who are extremely angry, who want blood, who are extremely motivated. If the Iranians seriously wanted to hurt us and seriously wanted to strike back, that's what they would do. They'd use those overwhelming ground forces as well as their air force, and they would be able to do significant damage and harm and kill a whole bunch of us if that's what they wanted to do. What this is they're trying to save face and do as little damage as possible in the process. Now, we've got a very, very, very short window, Mr. Trump, where this can work out very, very well for us. You killed their number 2 guy, their number 3 guy. You inflicted severe harm on them. They're never going to be able to replace that guy. Okay, we've accomplished that. We got revenge for the 600 plus guys that he killed on our team. You promised to get us out of the forever wars. Get us out of the forever wars. So now, on Sunday, the Iraqi parliament agreed that we need to get the hell out of Iraq. And now, you've got the Iranians who had to strike back. It's very similar to growing up in the ghetto. Somebody slaps you in the face, you have got to respond. You cannot not respond. So the Iranians had to respond. Did they respond by sending their 100,000 militia members over there to go and kill our 5,000 troops? Nope. They shot rockets. They shot 12 rockets, probably 6 apiece. They probably gave us heads up and warning. And so far, we have no reports of KIA. Mr. Trump, this is literally the perfect time for you to get our guys out of there. Now, yesterday, I was about to do a story on this, and then we had a medical situation happen at the house, but Mr. Trump basically said, we spent a lot of money on the aircraft, airports or whatever, and before we leave, they need to pay us back. Which to me is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life. It makes no sense to me. Like, let's say for example, dear listener, that you and I were living on some mythical island, okay? And there were some very evil people on the other side who kept telling the rest of the world that we were hiding a dragon on our island. When we knew and they knew that the whole thing was a damn lie. There was no dragon. And then what they do is they spend 1,000 gold coins to build a bridge from where they live to our island. So they go to our island, kill a bunch of our people, destabilize our island, and lo and behold, they find no dragon, and then they just decide they're going to camp out there anyway. And then they start talking about taking your most important natural resource. Let's just call it, Wakandan vibranium. Let's call it that. Well, let's say they start talking about taking your vibranium, and you start to say, well, shoot, I'm beginning to think that the dragon had nothing to do with why you built that bridge over here. And then they say, you know what? You can elect your own leaders. So you elect your own leaders, and those leaders all come together and they say, we want you to get off of our island after about, 15 to 20 years. And then you say, well, that bridge that we built to invade your island is extremely expensive, and you're going to have to pay us back before we leave. Does that make any sense to you? What a silly thing to say, Mr. Trump. Now look, if there is, here's a good and the bad, the terrifying and the hopeful about Trump. Of all U.S. presidents on the planet Earth, Mr. Trump is the most influenced by the opinions of other people. The man, I'm not going to say he has narcissistic personality disorder, okay? I'm not a psychologist, all right? So I'm not qualified to say that. You got a lot of armchair psychologists talking about Trump and all the rest of it. What I do know based on his behavior is he's the type of individual that values the opinion of his base extremely highly. And at some level now, we've got to hold Trump and his supporters accountable to start putting some pressure on this man to follow through on his promise to get us out of the Middle East. Come on, y'all. I believe that Trump would be more inspired to get out of the Middle East by a Twitter bomb from his own constituency than from an intelligence briefing. I really believe that. One, because he believes that the intelligence apparatus is against him, and I'm not going to say he's crazy for believing so. But when you put out tweets like the following, Iran is talking very boldly about targeting certain USA assets as revenge for ridding the world of their terrorist leader who had just killed an American and badly wounded many others, not to mention all the people he had killed over his lifetime, including recently hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. Let this serve as a warning, all caps, that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted 52 Iranian sites representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level important to Iran and the Iranian culture, and those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The USA wants no more threats. So if I were to take this literally, he says any U.S. person or any U.S. asset. Now, obviously, a base could be construed as a U.S. asset. But Mr. Trump, if nobody dies, we should not kill any Iranians. That would be a horribly disproportionate response. Furthermore, Mr. Trump, you have already demonstrated that you can exercise restraint when you refused to kill those Iranians because they shot down a drone. And I would say, Mr. Trump, we've got a golden opportunity here where every side can come out of this debacle as winners. You can say you took out the number 2, which is basically the equivalent of Osama bin Laden, Anwar al-Awlaki, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You can say you took out the number 2 for Iran. The Iranians can say that they struck back. The Iraqis can say, hey, we've got some form of national sovereignty. We told the Americans to get out and they got out. And the Iranians can go back to their people and say, yeah, we shot at them and Trump sent all that stuff on Twitter and he did nothing to us. And if God willing, if no U.S. soldier has died in these 2 attacks at our bases, literally everybody wins. So you've got a golden opportunity here, Mr. Trump, for everybody to win and you to come out like an absolute genius. But I fear that because he was so aggressive on Twitter and because he is surrounded by literally millions of sycophants on Twitter, that voices of reason and logic are going to be drowned out by more silly, wide-eyed, crazy, 40-year-old plus boomer generation. No disrespect to the boomer generation, but the fact of the matter is you guys aren't going over there. Now, I've got family that is going over there. But he's going to be surrounded by a bunch of people who have no stake in the game, who are just going to tell this guy that it's the greatest thing in the world and now he needs to make good on his threat. Mr. Trump, I would advise you to stand down. And I would also, at some level, if you have ever been a Trump supporter who has ever sent a tweet to Mr. Trump, then you are responsible to throw your hat in the ring and tell this man to pull out and use this amazing opportunity to get out of Dodge. Don't worry about the 1,000 coins it took to build a little bridge. Let the Iraqis have the hangar, whatever it is. Let them rebuild their country and let them have their oil. And let's get out of Dodge. Let's get out of the forever wars. Pull everybody out of Syria. Pull everybody out of Afghanistan. Pull everybody out of Iraq, Mr. Trump. Let's focus on healthcare in the next 4 years. Because I'm almost certain that you're going to win a re-election. But if you escalate this now, this will be completely unjustifiable, Mr. Trump. Look, I completely, like I said, as a Christian, I don't advocate for the death of anyone, but I understand taking out Soleimani. I get it. He's a legit target. He was strutting about in the open, and I do not believe that he was on any peacekeeping mission or whatever silliness that Kyle Kalinske said or whatever. I don't even care if the Iraqis said that. No, sorry. You've got two and a half decades of actions that tells me why you were there. It was not a coincidence that we had an American contractor die 2 days prior and there you were. I don't want to hear it. That guy was a legit target. Fine. But Mr. Trump, I want to say this, even if an American soldier dies, you would be horrible. It would be a horrible decision to strike back, and especially to strike back in the disproportionate sense which you've been alluding to on Twitter. Well, that's my appeal to Mr. Trump and to his followers. Don't be a sycophant. And unless you're willing to kid up and get your loadout ready to ship out, to go to Iran and to jihad with the Ayatollah, then you also should be advocating for whatever is going to make for peace for the United States in that region. The Iranians, I repeat, even the folks who are justifying the Soleimani killing, the Iranians pose no imminent threat to the domestic sites of the United States of America. We pose a threat to them because we have surrounded their country with our bases. They pose no domestic threat to us. And any military threat that they pose to us has to do with us putting our troops in harm's way. Those are the facts. And listen to me. You know, all these people on Fox News talking about how horrible the Iranian nation is and how they're a rogue state and all the rest of it. Look, man, none of these people are going to be going overseas, and none of their kids are going to be going overseas either. So just think about that. All right. It's the best I could do. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America. We are the media. Till next time, guys.